guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a tutorial and review on the new Morphe x James Charles collaboration. I am so excited about this palette because you guys know that I love the makeup artistry. I love anything creative. I love when makeup artists come out with these awesome palettes that just are full of color and full of everything. And I mean, do you see this? This guy looks snatched. I feel like after seeing so many tutorials, I wanted to do my personal take on a look for you guys. So I hope that you guys learn a little something about this makeup right here and perhaps decide to recreate it. I think it would be so awesome. And it would also help you step out of your comfort zone if you're not really comfortable with a lot of color and you have purchased the palette. That's always a fun thing to do, is kind of like just have fun. And if you don't like it, guess what? You can just wipe that shit off and move on to the next look. So if you guys want to continue watching and see how I created this makeup right here, then please go ahead and do so. And then also see my personal thoughts on the new James Charles palette, then please go ahead and keep watching. So we're first going to start off with our Morphe eyeshadow primer. This one is in the shade Translucent, and I'm just gonna kind of tap it in. Then I'm gonna be taking my Morphe brush. This is the Morphe 173, and this is what I like to use to blend out eyeshadow primer all over my lids. And the Morphe shadow primer worked really well with the Jaclyn Hill Armed and Gorgeous palette, so I'm hoping that it works really good with the James Charles palette. I'm gonna be starting off with the color Face, which is this beautiful blue, and I'm just tapping in and starting to apply that all over our crease. I have to say that these shadows are pressed very, very well because I am not getting any fallout when I tap. Even when I was going in really, really intensely, the fallout really wasn't anything like I've seen before with other palettes from other brands. And I'm just using the Sigma brush, which is the Sigma E25. And this is the lighter of the blues that are matte in here. So we're just gonna be taking that back and forth and really kind of using that as our starting point for this eye look because it's mainly going to be blues. Okay, so this color was actually called Playground. I'm so sorry. That little piece of paper that comes with the shadows is just so hard to read. I wish that they actually had the shade names on the palette, like on the front of the palette where each shade like underneath. That would be so much easier. So I got confused, but this is actually the color Playground. And we're just gonna be putting that back and forth. Now, James Charles did say that this palette is one that you have to pack on the color. It builds very nicely. And I do feel like the more that I build the colors together, you get a little bit more of an intense payoff. I do have to say though that this primer does help because, I mean, even with just a little bit of shadow on here, I'm definitely seeing some good results. This is something though that I'm noticing is that it's kind of breaking apart right here. I don't know if you guys can see that. I mean, the colors that he did pick to put in this palette are colors that are very, very hard to develop, but I think overall they're performing decent. I did have this issue on this other eye over here where I felt like the product was breaking apart, and I've done everything that was instructed. I used the primer because it did say to use these shadows with primer as opposed to like concealer or nothing. So that is a little problematic for me, but let's work through it. What we're gonna do here is something that I learned from watching Nikki Tutorials videos, and that is kind of patting the color into the crease as opposed to kind of swiping it back and forth. And this is just going to help create back that intensity. So do you see how much more intense that looks now? That we're just tapping that color right into our crease as opposed to swiping it back and forth. That looks much better, and I think that's what we were going for. So that being said, that's what I'm gonna do here. That's how I started off on the other eye that I did off camera because I definitely wanted to really kind of test it out before I went on camera. I also didn't know exactly what I was gonna do, so I wanted to make sure that I had a vision before we just went on camera and came out with some BS. But this actually I'm living for. And this is what I would recommend you do. definitely pat it. Now, when you blend it, because you do want to kind of create a little bit of a blended non-harshness up here, then we can go in with a nice fluffy brush like our Sigma E40 and slowly start to diffuse just the upper corners. I think you guys can see that that stamping motion made a big difference. And then we can blend, blend, blend. I'm going to be taking my Tarte Shape Tape in the shade Medium Honey, and we're going to be using this to cut our crease. I'm going to be using my Sigma Beauty Bird brush. This is the cream shadow brush. I'm just going to be using that to cut our crease. I love using this brush because it helps cut the crease so fast because it's much bigger than what I've used in the past. Okay, now I'm going to be going in and taking my smaller brush just to clean up any edges. And you can see how freaking cut that is thanks to the Beauty Bird brush, like I'm freaking living. So now that we've gone ahead and applied that base color, we're going to go in with the color Flashback. And this color is a nice white shade. I'm so happy that they included a white shade in this palette because we all know a white shade is essential. And I'm just going to be really honest with you guys. I feel like this isn't as white as it could be. I have the Balm Cosmetics Meat Matte Nude palette, and there's this beautiful white shade in there that is like pure white. Like it's absolutely amazing. I felt myself having to go in with this when I was doing the other eye so many times. Now I'm going to be taking the shade Hello, which is this beautiful baby blue shimmer, and this was a gorgeous color that as soon as I saw it, I was in love with it. So I'm just going to be applying that kind of in the midsection. We are going to be applying 3 colors onto our lid, the white, Flashback, Happy, and then we're going to go back in with Playground to close up this eye. For this one, when I was doing the other eye, I did start off with just my dry brush, and then once I went ahead and used the dry brush to kind of set like a base of the color and kind of placement wise, I went ahead and used the MAC Fix Plus to intensify it. You can see how much better that looks once we go in with our MAC Fix Plus. Then with my Delium Tools brush, this one right here, this is the round blender, which is really good for packing on color. I'm going to go back in with the shade Playground, and I'm going to be applying that on this outer edge, and I'm just going to be kind of wrapping up that eye space right there, and you can see really building that blue. It's like almost like an aqua blue right into the outer edge. Right now you're just worrying about making sure that you pack it on there, so you can be as messy as you want. Also keep in mind that we are going to go back in with concealer once we are done the eyes to really clean up the look. So this is your chance to be messy. Once we go in with that big fat brush, we're going to go back in with this small little guy. This is our Morphe M506, and we're going to just use that to really nicely blend that light baby blue, the shimmery blue, into this matte. And you can also start to build the matte color Playground into this crease work. I'm just taking a very easy hand and starting to kind of round out the entire look with whatever was left of what we played with on this side. A lot of using color is making sure that you blend everything very, very evenly and just blend it as much as possible, because it's very easy for a colorful eye to start to look very harsh and blotchy. But once you start to really blend it out, it just changes everything. Now I'm going to be taking this big blender brush by Delium Tools from the Golden Triangle collection, and I'm just going to start blending the outer edges, circular motions for those outer edges. Because you're working with a bigger space on the outer edge, it's okay to go in very intensely with the circular motions because it's not going to diffuse the color all the way out just because there's so much space here that you apply the color. So just don't be shy and go to town with it. This looks so pretty. I do have to say these shadows blend very beautifully. And I think Morphe is pretty good at nailing that aspect of their shadows, is making sure that they blend very precise and nicely. So I want a little bit more out of this middle shade. So I'm going to go back in with the shade Hello, and I'm just going to do what I did when we were going into the lid by just kind of tapping and just pressing. I would say use a little bit of MAC Fix Plus, don't use too much. I feel like on this eye, I went in by mistake with a little too much MAC Fix Plus, and now I'm kind of paying for it. We're going to be taking our gel liner. This is by Sigma in the color Wicked, and we're going to be creating a wing liner. Because it is already a dramatic look, I kind of want to keep that intensity. Also, I feel like a wing liner isn't going to take away from this look, so that's why we're going to go ahead and do wing. We want this to look super fierce. I'm going in with my Sigma E65 brush. I'm going to be pulling it a little bit. And then we're going to be coming back down. Like that. And I do want to say, once we get onto the lid right here, we want to start making the wing liner look skinny. Because we want you to see a good amount of our eyeshadow on our lid. You can see that wing is looking liddy. And if need be, you could always take a little bit of a brush, just kind of clean any mess. Of course, we're going to be tight lining, just so that you can't see any skin once we apply our lashes. So now that we have this, we're gonna go ahead and do a lash. Lash is on. We're gonna go ahead and run some shadow on our lower lash line because I want to give it that nice intensity. So I'm gonna dive into the shade Playground, and we are going to run that. I'm gonna run that on our lower lash line. Then I'm going to be taking another brush, and we are going to be doing our brow bone highlight just to add some intensity there. At first I wanted to go in with the white shade that we used on our lid, but then I realized that I wanted to test out a different color. I also felt like it was too white for the brow bone, so I decided to go in with the shade Canvas. We're just going to apply Canvas all over. Okay, so now we are going to do the final little thing to our look to make it complete, and that is apply a highlight. So I actually decided not to apply one of my typical highlighters that I have here because I wanted to use a shadow from the palette. This palette is so huge. I freaking love it. I want to use this color right here. It looks so beautiful, and I feel like it would complement my skin pretty well because it is like champagne-y, but it has a little bit of like a gold undertone in there, which I think would be great. It kind of reminds me a little tiny bit of Champagne Pop, except I feel like Champagne Pop was a little bit pinkier. But this one, I don't know, I feel like that would be a good highlight, and I feel like it's a big enough size to kind of pass as a highlight. I mean, it's a gorgeous shade for a lid, of course, that's what it's made for, but I mean, I could see myself, ooh, I'm like messing up the palette. I can see myself scooping in it. Okay, so the shadow that we're gonna be using is called Face. We're gonna be taking our Honest Lash Beverly Hills A23 brush, dipping into that little guy, and applying it right here. Yeah, that's pretty. I feel like it complements my complexion really well too. It's not like too intense. I feel like it's perfect. So yeah, that would be a good highlight shade if you just kind of wanted to have one palette to like reach for everything. That would be a good little scenario. I'm honestly glamming up like I'm about to go do something, but in reality, I'm gonna go to bed after filming this, which sucks because I love this makeup look, but we'll get some good pics. Okay, so that concludes us doing a little mini eye tutorial using the shadows. I love this blue look. I kept looking at the palette and I was like, I don't know what to do with this palette. I felt like there were so many different color schemes that I was like, I do not know what I want to do. I knew that I wanted to do something different. This is an artist palette. The cover of it is James Charles covered in white paint with a beautiful dramatic eye makeup look. So I wanted to do something that was a little bit dramatic and like play with color, because this color really focuses on color. Now, it does have the beautiful colors that work so well for your everyday life. Up here, you have a little bit of everything. You have that warmth. You have like those just very wearable everyday shadows that I'm so excited to dive into. But I've just seen so many looks using these colors all the time, and I'm sure you guys have too. So I wanted to do something completely different, something that I know wasn't going to be done frequently. So I was like, you know what? I haven't done a blue look, like just pure blues, just having lots of fun with the blues. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna take these colors and do something fun with this. Now, I do have to say that moving into how they work and how they performed on my lids, you guys saw how they performed. I was having a little bit of an issue at first with them, and that being said, I did go ahead and use the eyeshadow primer that was suggested. James did say in his video where he introduced the palette that he really recommended you use a primer for these specific shadows because it would work better. Now, I do feel like the primer has done a really good job of making the shadows, not just these shadows, but other shadows that I've used this past week while I purchased the new Morphe primer, just make them pop a little bit more on my eye. I feel like a lot of times with my complexion, shadows can look very muted and not so intense as they do in the pans. And I feel like this Morphe shadow primer is really good at making these shadows stand out and pop, and also making them look very just bright and pigmented. I was also very shocked to see that these palettes do not have that much fallout. The shimmers do have some fallout, I did notice that, but the mattes, the fallout isn't as intense as I thought it would be. You really have to like really pat in to get a lot of fallout. They're pressed very, very nicely to where you do not have that fallout. I know that when I was going in and doing my shadow, I didn't feel like I had to go back in and retouch any of my foundation because I felt like it was staying in place and locked in and not budging. So that was a positive thing, especially because today I did go ahead and do my foundation before I did my eyeshadows. But I do wanna say that as you guys saw in my little tutorial, I did have to go in and pack on the colors. He does say that these shadows are very buildable. They're meant to be built up, so you don't just go ahead and like do one swipe and you have like bam, bam, bam. No, you have to go ahead and build it up. And I would even suggest, like you guys saw in my tutorial, you tapping the shadow. I learned that technique from Nikki Tutorials. Every time she does makeup looks, she does that. And today, for some reason, I was like, you know what, let me do this. Maybe it's because I just watched her tutorial using the James Charles palette, but I was like, I need to try this out. And I tried it out and I just saw what a difference it made to the intensity. And it worked beautiful because you guys can see this eye just has such pure gorgeous intensity. If you go ahead and swipe it back and forth, I feel like the shadows are gonna separate. That's something that I was noticing as I was doing my eyeshadow in this eye especially. But then I feel like me going back into where it did separate on this eye helps me just kind of make sure that I tap, and then blended it out in circular motions. So that's just a little technique for you guys in case you guys are having some issues with the palette. But everything else worked really great. I like the fact that the palette just has so much color in there, and I feel like the colored shadows are really great. I have a lot of hard time finding palettes or just shadows like this in general. For example, the red in here, the yellow, the very bright pink, those colors are colors that you don't use every day, but especially during Halloween time and also like during times where you want to do a little bit more of a dramatic makeup, it's very hard to find those types of shadows that are going to perform great. Now, I'm very proud of James for being bold and coming out with this red, which I will be trying very soon. Right there, that red is phenomenal. I didn't want to play with that because that was just going back into the warm tones, and I really wanted to stay away from that in this tutorial. But I will definitely go back and do something with that. Maybe for like New Year's or something, I will play with that red. But I just feel like this is needed. It's very rare to find a red shadow. I have actually looked for one before and I couldn't find it anywhere. I think the closest brand that has like a red shadow is Makeup Forever, like their single shadows. but besides that, I haven't seen anything. So I'm just really impressed. They are very buttery shadows. They do remind me a lot of the Jaclyn Hill palette, the white one that she came out with first that everybody was obsessed with. This is very similar formula. And the shadows are very great. I do have to say the shimmers, I would say do not use too much MAC Fix Plus because they don't work well with too much MAC Fix Plus. You can kind of shear them out a little too much and it just won't look good. So yeah, overall, I think this palette is absolutely great. I just love how many shadows you get. For all these shadows, you do pay $39. I actually didn't purchase it on Morphe.com. I waited until I saw it in stores at my local Ulta when it came out last week, and I was able to find one. I hope they still have some in stock at your local Sephora's. Sephora, really? At your local Ultas, because I think this is definitely worth getting, especially if you're somebody that's really into makeup and you love makeup, or if you're a makeup artist and you saw and you're like, I don't know, let me just wait until I see it in person. You definitely should try it out because I feel like it has everything you need. I was kind of on the fence about it, to be honest, purchasing it online, because I was like, I don't know, it's beautiful, but I just have so many palettes. But I really feel like this palette, what makes it stand out is that it has those unique shades, like I just mentioned, that you cannot find in any other palette. It's very rare. You'll definitely get these warm tones and stuff like that, but it's very rare to get those really bright, intense, vibrant colors that will actually work for you. So I'm living. And I mean, unleash your inner artist. I love that slogan. I feel like it's perfect. And I feel like this palette really makes you experiment and really makes you kind of step out of your comfort zone, really dig deep into a look that can just turn out so beautiful and beyond what you've imagined that you could have created. I would say that if you have picked up this palette, I would really say, please step out of your comfort zone. Don't just stick to the warm tones. Definitely play with all the color that's on those bottom two rows, because I feel like you will be pleasantly surprised how much you really do love the shadows. I also do have to say the palette is sold out on Morphe's website, which sucks, but I know, I actually don't know. I think that they're going to restock it one last time. I hope so, because I think that would be genius. So if you haven't purchased it, go check out Ulta. You may find it there. If not, just wait until it goes in stock. Hopefully it does, because I think everybody needs one of these in their collection, especially when you want a little bit of everything sprinkled into a palette. So yeah, I really hope that you guys enjoyed watching this, and please don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up if you did. It helps me out, lets me know to continue doing these types of videos for you guys. And also, if you're new to my channel, please go ahead and subscribe. I would love for you to become a member of family here on YouTube, because I wouldn't want you guys to miss my videos for the world. And please don't forget to hit that notification bell if you haven't done so already, because I would hate for you guys to miss out on any of my uploads. So go do that now. Hit that notification bell. Let's go. And that being said, I'll be seeing you guys very, very soon for a brand new video. Bye, guys.